everybody, and welcome to Wrestling with Statistics, the only show that takes a unique perspective of looking at the world of professional wrestling through the lens of statistics, analytics, and everything in between. I am your host, Ryan Neitzey, and with me, as always, is the man behind Pro Wrestling Musings himself, Craig Leask. Craig, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm all right. I can't seem to be settling into this kind of new lockdown malaise at the moment. I'm well and truly fed up with it. It's always a good sign when it is currently 2:20 on a Sunday afternoon and you are still wearing your pajamas. But that aside, all good.
How dare you call me out like this?
No. Me.
Oh, you're in still?
Pajamas.
You're in. I mean, okay, so it makes sense because obviously, I'm in America. You're in Scotland.
Yeah,
makes sense.
You're acceptable if you're wearing pajamas. It's
It's
I
9
should
in the
be
morning
wearing-
over here.
I should have been wearing clothes 6 hours ago.
Well, in your defense, I guess the only defense I can make for you is that it is, a Sunday. It is like a lazy weekend Sunday. That's all I got. That's all I got for defense.
It's fine. It's fine. I've completely crashed this week. I was doing really well during when you like try to do really well and you like push yourself and then you just run out of steam. That's where I am.
Yeah, no, I understand that completely. Well, I'm I'm glad you're in your pajamas. I think that just means you're trying to get enough sleep and be well rested to well, I don't know. I was going to say wake up bright and early tomorrow morning to watch some New Japan. But maybe
Tuesday, is it not?
I thought it was Monday. Well, no, the special secret show is Monday, and then Tuesday's the first day of New Japan.
All right. Okay.
This special secret show that no one has any idea what the card is. Feels like it has New Year Dash energy to it.
Is this the American thing?
The American thing.
Apparently they did some kind of like Lions collision or Lions breakout thing. And like it's all the LA Dojo people plus like whoever's in America, like Rocky Romero's part of it, and
oh yeah,
I think it was something that had been taped.
No, I think it's completely different. This thing is, I'm looking it up right. The Together Project Special.
All right, okay.
At Monday, June 15th, no match lineup. It will be announced at the start of the show, kind of like New Year's Dash. The thing you're talking about. Yeah, I think that might just be a special thing.
The guy from MLW was supposed to be debuting. Tom Lawler, maybe? Is that his name?
Filthy Tom Lawler.
That guy, yeah. I'm not familiar with him, but I know the name.
He's I watched I've gotten through I think like the first 10 episodes of MLW, and I'm trying to slowly get through it.
From the beginning.
Jeez. You know me. I'm slightly insane when it comes to watching everything. So I'm getting through it.
I've watched one episode and it was just the most recent one, like 6 months ago when I decided to try it. That's slightly different approach.
Yeah, I'm like, some people are like, let me get into MLW. Let me start from the most recent episode. I'm like, oh, and for me, I'm like, oh, let me get an MLW. Let me start from episode 1 and work all the way through this hour program. He's one of the obviously standouts of MLW. I think his role as of late has sort of been relegated in a sense that he's more of a mid-carder as opposed to being a top guy back in the day. In the beginning, I don't know. I've watched the most recent stuff, but he seems interesting. I think he would be a nice fit for that sort of that rough and strong style approach that New Japan has. He is a mixed martial artist. So
right, okay.
I think that sort of combination of things kind of help him out there, and I think he would be a nice, good fit for New Japan. Hopefully, I don't know. He'll probably be, based on his size, he would probably only be used for oh man, I haven't seen New Japan forever. I'm forgetting all the terminology. The small people. Juniors.
Yes.
The small ones, he'd probably only be for the juniors now that I think about it.
Okay, interesting. They need more juniors.
Yeah, with Will Ospreay obviously bulking up,
Yes.
becoming the true pig energy that he has bestowed himself. Um, and then Shingo gone.
Yeah.
Who knows how many other juniors have been bulking up insanely.
But just
During,
like like when I started watching it, it was Osprey, Marty Skrull, Takahashi, and Kushida, and the only one out of those guys that's left is Takahashi.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess Marty Scroll. Well, he's not going to
Yeah,
be available to use anytime soon, but I guess in a way he could still be used.
I would expect to see him, but he's just, I suppose, he feels like he's gone because he's not been around recently.
I mean, yeah, I'm just really excited for New Japan to come back, honestly.
Yeah,
Like, and
yeah,
not
no,
only
absolutely.
come back, but return with the New Japan Cup, return with a tournament.
Hmm.
I'm so excited, so excited.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, it's very exciting indeed.
have you looked at the lineup for the New Japan Cup at all yet?
Yeah, no, I like it. A lot of you see the people that have obviously not thought it through, being like, "Oh, this is a disappointing card," blah blah blah. But like, it's New Japan. The wrestlers are all good at wrestling. They're all in the company for a reason. All the matches will be good. Criticizing it because of like random guys you've not really heard of being in it, like all your New Japan Young Lion is a better wrestler than you know WWE main roster superstar X. Well, certainly produces a better match, but that's to do with the companies, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Do you who out of the New Japan? Yeah, it's kind of obviously they've been sort of replacing people because obviously most of their roster that was in the New Japan Cup originally are no longer available due
Yeah.
to travel restrictions. And
The
also,
lineup is similar though, isn't it? It's almost as if they've just tried to keep the same plan, but have just, slotted in who they have.
oh yeah, I that's what it looks like. Is that they just whoever was going to be in a match, they've taken out and put a new person instead. Um, so they just basically kept all the matches except we now have some weird ones like Yano Jado. What a match. Who's your current pick to win the whole thing if you have one?
So I would like to see them not go with Sonada. I think a lot of people, including myself, got some Sonada burnout last year. I didn't think that his matches were as tedious as some people suggested, but I wouldn't want to see Sonada in another world title match for a wee while. They need to do something different with him. I want Takahashi to win it. I don't know if they'll be that bold, but I would love to see that. Failing that, Shingo or Suzuki.
I'm currently looking up the New Japan Cup bracket right now. Here we go. Yeah, Takahashi would be amazing. But
Mhm.
he's got to beat Honma, Yano or Jado, and then probably Ishii.
Yeah, yeah, something like that.
Ishii one's gonna be a tough one for Hiromu. But I would love Takahashi. I think and that's like the perfect. If they just wanted to go back to Takahashi Naito, I
Mhm.
feel like that would be a perfect
Yeah.
setup for that. I agree on Sonata. I agree that I think Sonata is more liked in Japan than he is in America. I don't know what it is, but I agree that like at least here there's a little burnout, or I should say America Western audience. I think would probably be a better way to say that. But
Yeah. I think it's just like the fact that his face just never moves.
he's
Like
emotionless. He's stoic.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like, some people would like criticize Ishii for being like quite a bland wrestler, but like his style works. Like he's a performer and he's got his own style, and it really works when you get to know the character.
Mhm.
What exactly is Sonata?
He's the Cold Skull. I thought that was pretty obvious.
Uh,
He loves fashion. He's got a
yeah,
decently great
it's a
beard.
cool jacket. It's a cool
Uh,
jacket. I'll give him that.
yeah, he's like a weird kind of piratey guy now.
The like purple jacket with the shoulder pads. That's quite cool.
He loves technical wrestling. Loves
He's excellent in a match with Zack Sabre Jr.
he loves Kejimoto.
Mm.
And these are the things I know about him. No, I think I do. There is something to Sonata winning the whole thing, despite some Western burnout. Simply because he's the only LIJ member without anything. Just like they just give him a cup. Just be like, hey, there you go, Sonata. I mean, even
You can give
then,
him a cup without it being that cup.
that's true. That's true.
Just find some like old expressionless coffee cup in the back.
If I had to really pick somebody that I would love to see win this whole thing, oh man, it would probably have to be oh man. I'm looking at this bracket. I looked at the top right corner of the Tanahashi, Ibushi, Saber, Sonata, and I was like, "Oh no, I can see where this is all going." I think Sonata's winning that block, but no, I'm looking at it. If I had to pick someone to pick the whole thing, I could see the finals being a Sonata Ishii, honestly. I don't know, would they do Sonata Okada again? Probably not. But I can see. I want to.
No.
I think I want Ishii to win the whole thing. He's probably my pick to win the whole New Japan Cup.
I think a lot of people would go with that.
He's a heavy New Japan Cup favorite. Every single year, it's always like Ishii, baby. Here we go. Ishii's got this one.
It kind of fits. It kind of fits the character. He's kind of at that level, the kind of upper mid card, convincing challenger. But he's not. He's not going to win the G1 or challenge at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, sadly, yeah. Ishii. Oh man, I love Ishii. Anyways, yeah, I'm very excited for New Japan Wrestling to return. I'm sure, Craig, that as the New Japan Cup unfurls, we will be looking in depth at some of those matches, depending how they all shape out to be. At the very least, probably going to get some barn burners. But speaking of barn burners, let's go over to last week's show of NXT Takeover in your house. Man, Craig, what if it wasn't for Backlash, I would have thought that there would be the greatest wrestling match on this show. Am I right?
Right. So I hadn't put 2 and 2 together to get 4. And I was listening to a What Culture podcast yesterday, and Adam Cleary was going on about like, oh yeah, this is a great idea for the SEOs. This is, the Google blah blah blah, and that's what they're doing. This Backlash Wrestling, greatest wrestling. It's search engine bait.
Yes.
It's like WWE or New Japan, Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada, greatest match ever. Oh, we can't hit those heights anymore. What can we do? Not some kind of like ambitious mastering your craft, trying to produce high quality stuff. No. We're just gonna like force these words down people's throats until this is what comes up in the search engines. It's like, oh, it's proper like political spin narrative hijacking nonsense.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just typed in WWE greatest match ever, and obviously, since today, at the time of recording, is the day of that match. Going to Google Trends.
So it is.
Going to Google Trends, it's currently projected to be 100 out of 100. It's hard to explain Google Trends without actually showing the graph.
It's all right.
Maybe I'll do it in post. But in the Google Trend, it's like, oh yeah, you can see that like, whoa, greatest match ever gets a huge spike. The last time I had a huge, let's go past 5 years.
I don't even know if you'd need to even have WWE in there for the greatest match ever thing to produce that search result, though, if you're just doing it on like how people actually Google search.
Greatest match ever is at its highest peak in the last 5 years. The only other highest peak was come on. You know how like you have to like, oh my god, I can't. Come on, there we go. Haha. Was February 2017. What match took place in February of 2017 that would have been considered the greatest match ever?
I had no idea. I was thinking that it was going to be the first Okada Omega match got a lot of buzz.
What was that? That would have been January 2016?
2017.
January 2017?
I think so, yeah. Because 18 was the Dominion match.
Maybe that's the residuals of the search
Maybe,
engines.
yeah.
That might be what that is.
To be fair, if you type in greatest wrestling match ever, all the news stories that come up is about Backlash, but everything underneath that is like Pro Fight Database. I mean, there's a WWE article, 100 matches to see before you die. But then, I mean, there's a bit of Backlash, but actually, no, there's a lot of Backlash. That's annoying.
Yeah, they get at the very. I'm interested to see how much that idea holds up in like a month from now. If you type in
Yeah,
greatest match ever.
yeah.
But let's before we get to, well, we're not gonna. Are we covering Backlash? I guess a little behind the scenes.
I vote no.
Unless Edge and Orton is legit the greatest match ever, probably not.
No, I mean, it's if we're doing this next weekend, then we're going to have Backlash or New Japan to talk about. So,
That's true.
do you really want to?
No,
No.
no, of course not. Well, let's talk about. Let's get into last week's pay-per-view in your house. We wanted to talk about that at the very least.
Yes.
Well, we got a little bit of that ahead of us. We want to just do a quick. It's been a week since this pay-per-view, so we wanted to just do a quick rundown, just some quick thoughts. So I guess we'll just go through. I'll just say the match results and just give me some quick takes, I guess, Craig. Starting with the opener, which was the 6-woman tag team match. Mia Yim, Shotzi Blackheart, Tegan Nox defeating the team of Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, and Raquel Gonzalez.
Can barely remember it. Raquel Gonzalez looked good. They made her look big and strong. Candice LeRae is a tremendous wrestler, did not need to be turned heel. What are you doing? But she's still always great. Sad that Dakota Kai has looked quite ordinary after the turn. I think they've blown that a bit. I think this match was fine. I can't really remember. I fell asleep after watching this because it was early in the morning.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't honestly remember this match too much. I remember it being good. I just don't remember. I think that's going to be a theme throughout the rest of this takeover. Is that like a lot of stuff here was fairly decent. I just don't remember anything of it. They talk about making moments. I don't remember any moments from this match.
No.
I love Raquel Gonzalez looked good. But I think in a way they're trying to, that diminishes other people like Dakota Kai, who I think would be, better served somewhere else. I think she is a good heel in the heel role, whereas Candice LeRae I think is still very early on, but also still very weird and new for her.
I think she's good at it, but she had Bailey energy for me, like NXT Bailey and
who Dakota Kai or Candice LeRae?
Candice LeRae.
Oh, okay.
I think this has been a bit weird.
Let's move on to the next match, which was Finn Balor defeating Damian Priest in 13 minutes and 8 seconds.
And this was good. This was very good. This was Finn Balor doing a great job. Damian Priest took that like gnarly looking back bump on the steps. But he was great in this as well. He's kind of got that kind of big match performer in him. If you kind of looked at him and looked at the NXT booking, you would be forgiven for thinking this was like WWE pushing a big man because he's a big man. He is actually a good wrestler. He's been a good wrestler for a while when he's in the right spot. There was a match against Marty Scurll in Ring of Honor from a few years ago, which was just superb. I think they were fighting for the TV title. So yeah, he's a good worker. Finn Balor deserves better from NXT. He went down there. He's red hot, and he feels like he's been pushed to the side, in fit for like Killer Cross, which I'm not sure is the best idea at this time.
Yeah, I agree. I thought this was match was great. I thought this was probably the match of the night for me personally. I really enjoy Damian Priest. I saw him live wrestle Hangman Adam Page in a street fight in Ring of Honor, and that was great. I think this is probably Balor's best match since returning to NXT. I was really high on this match. I would agree. Finn Balor has been sort of. It's weird because you bring it back to NXT, and so the thought being that you sort of use him to build up other stars. like a distraction for Gargano, but then use him as Damian Priest, Cameron Grimes, etc., etc., etc. The problem being is that now that he's wrestling all those people and been wrestling those people for a little bit, he's now severely cooled off.
Yeah.
Luckily, it looks like they're bringing him back into the title picture with the North American Championship. However, he's cooled off a lot, so let's see, I guess, what happens with Balor moving forward. Next up is Keith Lee defeating Johnny Gargano for the NXT North American Championship.
I liked this. I thought this was all right. I feel like I've got like lockdown blinders on now, where I just want stuff to be good. So I think I maybe gave the show a little bit more credit than I would if it was like just after an actual good takeover. But yeah, I like this. I don't hate Johnny Gargano in the heel role, but when I think about how much I liked Johnny Gargano about 2 years ago to like now where I don't get excited about him at all, like he was one of my perhaps top 5 favorites in the world not too long ago. And now it's a bit kind of, shoulder shrug. I'm sure it'll be an all right match, but not particularly excited.
Yeah, I think Johnny Gargano, I think he also works great in heel role. I think he's just been sort of oversaturated in a way. And when it came to the Ciampa Gargano feud, he was one of the greatest in the world probably a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
One could argue, but now it's just sort of like, with all the Ciampa stuff, and then not, to boil it down even more, just a little bit of the oversaturation of like the huge dramatic epic matches and stuff. It was like after a little bit you're like, okay, another great epic match that's like 30-45 minutes, and you're like, okay, this is good, but like, okay, I feel like I've seen this a lot, and I think just doing too many of those has really burnt out fan appreciation for Johnny Gargano. Keith Lee doing another great job in this match. I thought he, it was weird that I saw a tweet complaining why Keith Lee can't just be wearing an eye patch. Like, we know that, like, if he has a hurt eye, why can't he just wear an eye patch? Why does he have to sell it by like closing his eye a little bit? And then my only real gripe with this match was it's a cool spot. The pounce into Johnny Gargano, throwing him through the barricade, is a cool spot. But they've already it's been like a month of having those up there, and they've already done the spot. And it completely defeats the idea of having a separation from the crowd and the ring like that. I know they're all NXT wrestlers. I know that like, it's not really containing them because it can go over the virus or whatever, but it's just like you're broken through, and now like it's, I hated it. I hated it. I hated that spot.
Yeah, so I had like all those thoughts that happened. But I think for me, all it really kind of highlighted was how pointless having those things there even is. Like, they're not doing anything to affect the spread of the virus, really.
Mm-hmm. It's a classic WWE move where it's like on the surface, it's like, oh,
it looks like it, but it's not actually doing anything. Just test your wrestlers.
You give anything. Oh my God! Please test your wrestlers. Just come on. You have a multi-billion-dollar company. You're scheduled to have the best fiscal year ever by like millions, and you aren't testing your wrestlers. Come on. Oh, okay. I'm gonna move on before I get even more angry about that. The Last Chance Backlot Brawl.
But like, hold on, because there's another issue there. Like, do NXT even need the North American Championship, or rather, is it even a good thing? Because like, I feel like it's a shackle around Keith Lee's ankles. Like, he should be in the conversation for going to take the title off Adam Cole. He should have been in the conversation to take that title for quite some time. But as soon as he got to win that North American Championship, he's out of the main title conversation. Having a title around your waist makes you look like a big deal. It makes you look like NXT are valuing you. But like, to be able to go and take the top championship belt, which he really should be in the position to do. He's a fantastic wrestler. He's got a great look. He's charismatic. He's great. He should be. When you think, oh, who's going to be the next NXT kind of star, it's hard to think of anyone apart from Cross. But that's because Keith Lee's got this belt around his ankles, shackling him down. And like, I think in a development system where the whole way that NXT's worked, it's been like this almost fluid way that people kind of rise up and kind of take the place of the one that came before them. And I do feel like the North American Championship is disrupting that. And yeah, they wasted Riddle for some reason. It looks to me like they're doing the same thing with Keith Lee, and I do not like it.
I think Keith Lee, to answer your question of the North American Championship matter, I think it's a good idea because of the large amount of roster that they do have. I think it's a good idea just to have sort of like the AEW thing where it's like the mid-carders didn't really have much to do, but now we have a title to also fight for. It's the same sort of thing here where like a huge roster, it now adds aspects to it. I do think, however, that they just over it just everything as of late just overstays its welcome. Like I
Are
like
they putting it on the wrong guys? Is that the problem?
I don't
Like
think they're putting on the wrong guys. I think
Johnny Gargano and Keith Lee should it not be like Cameron Grimes and Swerve Scott?
I don't think they're putting on the wrong guys. I think they are just not striking while the iron's hot. And
Mm.
and like, oh, we're trying to build to like they're trying to build now to Keith Lee versus Finn Balor, which that's cool, but why not do Johnny Gargano wins the title, Keith
Yeah,
Lee, wins this title, then we have Gargano Balor, which we didn't get previously, right? If I'm not mistaken.
yeah.
We didn't get at the last
No,
takeover.
we did get it eventually.
Did we get eventually? I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't
yeah,
seen
we've
that in a
had
while.
it.
But either way, do that again. But now you're doing it for the title, so there's a little bit of
Yeah.
extra stakes in there, and have Keith Lee directly go for the NXT Championship. I don't know why it becomes a shackle when it's still on Keith Lee, and it's like he has risen above the title. I think is what you're sort of implying.
I suppose the other thing with NXT is it's changed. Like, it's not quite a developmental. It's like collecting the elite guys that don't work for WWE
Mm-hmm.
and using NXT as the way in. Whereas before, when it was like Bo Dallas winning the title, like the North American Championship could almost be for those guys, for your Tyler Breeze, Baron Corbin type guys that aren't going to win the NXT title on the way up. The kind of North American Championship scene could be used for that instead. So perhaps people that have won the world title before or are going to end up in the title picture, like Johnny Gargano, shouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm. Let's move into the next match, which is the last chance backlot brawl for the NXT Championship, where Adam Cole defeated and retained his title against Velveteen Dream.
Yeah. So I didn't really watch this. I kind of had an idea of what it was going to be, and I was kind of plus 10 seconds skipping through it, so I kind of got an idea of what was happening, but I had no interest in watching this match. I'm kind of a bit down on the Adam Cole title reign now, and Velveteen Dream I've proper turned on. And yeah, these cinemas, I just kind of knew it was going to be bad, had kind of heard it was bad and just didn't want to engage, which is probably as much of a kind of comment on what NXT have done with this program as anything else.
I would agree with all those things. It was bad. Adam Cole. Adam Cole is the same situation with Keith Lee, where it's like he's overstayed his welcome with the NXT Championship. He sort of needs to move on and do something else. I thought this match was just awful. I thought the lighting of it was awful. I was tweeting to someone because they were like, "Why are they doing this?" And I was like, they're doing the lighting on purpose. Like, I work in film, I know for a fact that you can fix all those things, yet they're
Yeah.
specifically shooting it like this for some stupid reason where it's impossible to see. I thought it was dumb. I thought it was like slightly tone deaf, which was happening in the real world. I don't understand why
Yeah.
Dream came out as Negan. I don't understand what that had to do with anything besides just cosplay.
He also had did he not also have the Hollywood bandana on the back of his thing?
Oh, maybe I
I
didn't pay
think there was a
attention.
picture of his face on the back of his jacket, and he was wearing the Hollywood bandana. Which is obviously the Hulk Hogan
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood bandana. And as a black guy during, BLM movement wearing kind of a callback to a known racist. It was just like all those things went through my head when I was semi watching it. Obviously, as a white person, my perception of that is perhaps questionable when it was a black person doing it. But like it for me, it just seemed a little bit odd. And I suppose Velveteen Dream is also having these kind of allegations thrown at him about far more serious things. So it just kind of all added to the kind of unease with him as a performer.
Let's move into the next match, which is Karrion Kross defeating Tommaso Ciampa by submission in 6 minutes. Very quick match versus Ciampa. Thoughts?
This was all right. Yeah, it was a shame to see where Ciampa is. He needs to go back to his heel character if he's going to survive. Oh, that's funny. No one will survive, not even him. Yeah, this was fine. There was a good Ciampa Hope spot where he did look pretty grizzly and strong, and then he was overcome. Karrion Kross for me looked all right. I've seen some criticism of him as kind of boring in the ring and a bit limited, kind of Brock Lesnar type arguments when he was just like throwing suplexes around. This was yeah. It was short. It was fine. It didn't torture you.
Agreed. It was short. It was fine. It didn't, didn't leave anything. I agree that Ciampa needs to be doing something else. I think there's, when it comes to staying your welcome, I think Gargano and Ciampa is part of that issue. As they are two people that have actively said, especially Ciampa, saying that they do not want to go up to the main roster. I think NXT is sort of that place where everyone they realize, Triple H realized at a certain point that everyone's eventually going to go to the main roster. So when you have two people like Gargano and Ciampa that aren't going to the main roster, that said that they don't want to go to the main roster, Triple H is sort of like, okay, what do I do with these guys now?
I think the other issue is they've almost got like three of them now, because there's the two of them and Balor. They're kind of all in the same situation.
And with Adam Cole and Undisputed Era still there after 2-3 years, it's like, okay, come on guys, time to leave, time to go off to college. And finally, let's get into the actual stat breakdown of the Triple Threat Women's Championship match, with Io Shirai defeating and winning the NXT Women's Championship, defeating both Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley. Craig, just initial thoughts.
So this is where the audio medium of a podcast is good, but you might also want to see the visuals as well. This will be up on prowrestlingmusings.com, and you'll probably find it on Twitter somewhere as well, the kind of graphics for this match. So triple threat match, I really liked this. I've done some stats for this, so it's different to the kind of 1v1 stats that I kind of would normally put out, and I was kind of toying around with the format of it as well. So there's some different things available here, and it'll be up on the website by the time this comes out. But yeah, some really strong themes. Rhea Ripley kind of took a lot of the offense in this match. She dished it out. She threw a lot of fists, 56 strikes compared to 33 and 29. So that's a big gap. She also led for strikes down, 10 in comparison to 9 and 4. Io Shirai's kind of role in this match was interesting. She flitted in and out. It was kind of Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair going after each other quite a lot. And then Io Shirai would break things up with quite often a diving move or some kind of quick attack. Interestingly enough, Shirai 5 dives. Neither of the other two competitors did any. Charlotte Flair led the way, probably unsurprisingly. 3 submissions. Her opponents both did 1 short, 1 each. Reversals was pretty close. This, no disqualification because it's a triple threat. Charlotte Flair with 13 maneuvers that would have usually been a foul. Many of those weapon shots compared to only 1 each from her opponents. 9 taunts compared to 2 and 2 from Flair again. So she was very much the kind of strong, indomitable force in this match. However, it was Rhea Ripley that took 42% of the match offense. Charlotte Flair achieved 31, and Io Shirai, the victor, only 27% of the offense from her. So again, when we're looking at kind of flow of offense, tide change type graphics. There's a lot of Charlotte in that, a notable amount of Rhea Ripley, but Io Shirai is only dotting it in and out. However, we do start to see a bit more of an impact from her on the match as it comes to its close. What else do we have? Yeah, you'll have to look at these visuals. That's kind of, in a nutshell, it's Charlotte and Rhea kind of going at each other, Io Shirai kind of sticking and moving, lots of strikes from Ripley, lots of submission from Flair, and it's Io Shirai very much taking to the sky and using dives to win the match, which, interestingly enough, completely goes against the AEW statistics that seem to suggest that dives weren't paying off for wrestlers.
Yeah, it's like, and we've sort of noticed the same sort of thing of the Thatcher Riddle match, where it's like, they have like the wrestler has like specific things where Thatcher was going for like submissions, Riddle was going for like strike downs and strikes and whatnot. Same thing here. Io Shirai was all about dives, Flair was all about submissions, and Rhea Ripley was all about strikes. So it's like they got like these very specific notes, and that's how they introduce each other in these matches.
It's good differentiation of competitors, like fighting styles. And one of the graphics I've done for this is kind of offense type and performance features. So it's just a bar chart that completely compares the wrestler's use of each kind of move. And we've got a big kind of Ripley kind of she's dominant in strikes, and then we see that Charlotte is dominant in grapples, and then Shirai is completely dominant in dives. So yeah, as you say, NXT, what we have noticed from the last couple of weeks is they do differentiate, or they have in these couple of matches done a really clear and effective job of differentiating wrestlers' manner of fighting style.
Yeah, like really defining like the strategy of each wrestler.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
I thought this match was good. I really liked this match a lot. Real celebration for Io Shirai. That was an amazing moment. Obviously, there's a lot of talk back about the whole Charlotte Flair not getting pinned and whatnot. And looking at this, it's sort of like it does look like I've heard, I should say I've heard, obviously we've heard all of the takes, and I completely agree that like, why aren't they building up Rhea Ripley? And even though if Io Shirai gets the win, looking at this, Charlotte Flair is, one could argue, fairly dominant consistently. Obviously versus Rhea Ripley, who does have even more match offense total. Charlotte Flair is consistently still keeping up with everybody else, especially that huge spike at the end of the flow of offense chart. Which does support the theory, I guess, that I've heard, and I kind of agree with, that the NXT might not be building up Rhea Ripley as much as they are actually building up Charlotte Flair.
I so I was kind of thinking about that when I was doing these statistics, and came to the conclusion that the whole use of Charlotte Flair in NXT is one of the stupider things that I've seen in wrestling, especially in NXT, for a while. Like, if you think about where Rhea Ripley was at the end of last year, where she toppled Shayna Baszler, and if you think about the tear that Shayna Baszler had been on in essentially the last 2 years of NXT, they gave Rhea Ripley this huge moment. And if you remember that scene, everyone in the ring, she's being held up. She's this massive star. They follow that up with her challenging Charlotte Flair. That's huge. She looks like an absolute, monster of a competitor. She then loses to Flair, which, questionable.
Sure, we're like, at the time we're all like, okay, yeah, I guess that's fine.
That's all right. We've got a chase now. This is another thing for her to topple. But now Io Shirai beats Flair in a kind of sly way, and Rhea Ripley is now looking like the kind of side project. It's just weird. Like, why not have Rhea Ripley either not have anything to do with Charlotte Flair at any point, or defeat Charlotte Flair, and then have Io Shirai take the title off Rhea Ripley? They both look a heck of a lot better in that scenario than they do now, where Charlotte Flair's come in, taken a bunch of their shine, and left, and is in such a position that even doing that doesn't really even benefit her. other than she got to carry around the NXT Women's Championship for a while, which, looks like a real world championship. So it probably made her look like a proper champion for a bit rather than having those buy one, get one free WWE titles.
Yeah, and even in this match, it is looked like Io Shirai wasn't as much of a factor in this match. And then you sort of think about oh, well, according to this, she wasn't really much of a factor. And then she sort of got the diving, sort of not really upset pin, but sort of the surprise pin over Rhea Ripley as she was being submissioned.
Opportunist?
The opportunist pin.
Yeah.
So it's sort of one could argue maybe she was kind of lucky in that sense. I don't know.
It's. I don't think it does great. I don't think it's a brilliant look for her. I'm sure she'll take the title and do fantastic things and come out of it all right. It's just I don't know. It's just the whole Charlotte Flair aspect of this for me could have been a good strategy, but has just ended up being WWE. Here's the big star. Cheer for her. No, I mean it. Cheer for her. Well, if you're not going to cheer for her, I'm going to make you type stuff.
Mm-hmm. I've heard the comparison to real quickly. I heard the comparison to with the whole Charlotte Flair Rhea Ripley issue as to building up Braun Strowman just so that Roman can take out Braun. Building up Rhea Ripley just so that Flair can come in and take her shine a little bit. And I guess there is the idea that I can see, maybe one could say that maybe the plan originally was Rhea Ripley to get the win back from Flair and get that shine back. But obviously there's also the idea that hey, Becky Lynch is gone and we need someone to put up back into the main event picture, and let's get the title off of Charlotte so that she can go back up there. I'm not saying Charlotte is anywhere close to Becky in terms of the star scale, but in terms of needing a top level competitor, you need somebody,
You do. It's just I really like Charlotte Flair as a wrestler, and I think she is incredibly talented. And I don't go in for all this kind of Charlotte hate and hating on her and calling her Roman Reigns and all that thing. It's not. But let's just not do that. But for Charlotte Flair to have essentially gone into NXT and taken all of the Rhea Ripley, Shayna Baszler shine, and I think that's important. Think about who Shayna Baszler was and the amount of people that Shayna Baszler defeated, and for the person that conquered Rhea Ripley to have just been another slight road bump in the Charlotte Flair hype train. It's just not good booking. It's really not.
Yeah, sort of upsetting. But however, of course, congratulations to Io Shirai. Weird transition out of there, everyone. I am happy that Io Shirai got the win and got the title. I think she's obviously deserved it. And I'm interested, like you said, interested to see where she goes. But let's move away from NXT In Your House. That was our thoughts on In Your House very quickly, I guess. But let's move on into the next thing. We don't have a lot of time. I guess we'll drop the FTR Butcher Blade match and just focus on Cody Marq Quen, Craig.
I don't mind too much about time. It's up to you. I know I've been one that's kind of wanted to shorten things, but I'm in no rush.
We're currently at 43 minutes.
I don't mind, really.
Okay.
We can do it quick. I would quite like to talk about FTR if you're okay with that. I don't want to keep you in a super long podcast for the whole morning, though.
You're fine. Let's just quickly go to FTR Butcher and the Blade first, then, since not a huge amount of thoughts, just more of like a sort of takeaways from their debut match.
Yeah, sure.
Of course, there was the debut match opening up an AEW Dynamite last week, and that was FTR. Let me hold on. Dax Harwell and Cash Wheeler. Harwood, yes.
I think, yeah.
Dax Harwood really should be Hardwood.
Can't be that.
I know it can't be that, but it really should. And Cash Wheeler.
Wrong job with that name.
Anyway, taking on Butcher and the Blade in their debut match. You're looking at the graph now. I should have said I was trying to say in the Flair thing, If you want some more visuals, always go to the YouTube channel, Hit the Books podcast, and you can see the video version, which comes with both the audio and the visuals. Little plug ski there. So talking about this one, you're looking at the graphic right now, FTR versus Butcher and the Blade. Like we said, not a huge sort of takeaway. It's a great, I would say, a good debut, maybe great debut for FTR. Very dominant in this match. What were your sort of thoughts on this match, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, you've summed it up there. It was great to see FTR in the AEW ring. It was intriguing to see what they were going to do. 66% of match offense in their favor. This was, it was a showcase match. One dive from FTR. We spoke briefly about that before recording. What is that about? They made this big thing of like this big tweet of what you won't see from FTR and AEW, and dives within that. Why are they doing a top rope splash? It's for me, it's just stupid. I don't know. Are they supposed to be delusional heels that aren't what they say they are? I think you get a heck of a lot more mileage out of presenting them as the guys that are against flashy Young Bucks style tag team wrestling. But apart from that, love seeing them in AEW. The presentation of the people in the crowd, the specific people that were in the crowd watching them was interesting. You'll be hearing 4 horsemen this and 4 horsemen that. I'm not going to talk too much about that because everybody else is. But yeah, and even the finishers, that was interesting. They renamed the Shatter Machine and did that, but then finished it with Blanchard and Anderson's old spike pile driver move. So yeah, very interesting. And the post match was fascinating to see as well.
Yeah, I forget. I try to look it up. I forget what it was called, but the superplex into the top rope splash was a finisher for an old school tag team. I don't remember what their name was. I saw the GIF as soon as like the match was over, and I saw it. I was like, "Oh, that's what it is." I don't remember it at all. I do.
There are a lot of old school tag teams with finishing maneuvers, though.
That's also true, and they did a lot of them, right?
Why? It's just weird. Like it's just.
They're going to do the heart attack again at some point. They have a treasure trove of moves to go. But I do agree. I that is the devil's advocate answer of like, well, it was another throwback to old school tag team. But I do agree that like out of all old school tag teams that existed, why do that one where it was a dive? When you're going to tell people that you're not going to see dives, and you see you then see Cash Wheeler, I think, do a dive off the top rope. This match was good. Looking at Butcher and the Blade, obviously, the only big thing they did was their strike down rate. And I would probably have to thank the Butcher on that one. Butcher, great look. Love the Butcher. I'm loving the Butcher, the big handlebar mustache. I'm there for that. But yeah, it was just a very good showcase of FTR moving forward, and maybe sort of, and obviously with the result of the brawl at the end of the match, sort of presenting them as big title contender players. And I wouldn't be
straight off the bat, which I think is the right way to go with them.
Exactly. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to see some sort of title shot with them, and yeah, I would presume Omega and Page at probably All Out. So get ready for that, I guess, folks. But yeah, so then let's get into Cody, Marq Quen. This was again the second week of the TNT Championship Open Challenge title defense. Cody Rhodes taking on Marq Quen. Marq Quen replacing who was supposed to be Phoenix in this match, but obviously Phoenix's injury. Marq Quen took the shot. Interesting. Very different than the Jungle Boy match, Craig, but the very interesting stats here. What are some takeaways from you?
This was about 50-50 in terms of match offense. Marq Quen actually put in one more move than Cody. The stats round out at 50% each, but it's actually 50 point something in favor of Marq Quen. Which I don't think many people would have predicted. A lot of that came from strikes. There was a point in the match where Cody slammed his knee off the ring post, which is a talking point in itself. And then Marq Quen kind of reacted to that and kind of rained down with the strikes on Cody, which is where that advantage came. He didn't differentiate his offense hugely, although he did go with a lot of diving moves, 5-0 in terms of that, which I don't think anybody will be too surprised at. Cody outdoing him in terms of submissions, grapples, and strikes that actually resulted in the man falling to the floor. I suppose the ongoing talking point with Cody is the way that he's wrestling his matches. It's very strange. I'm finding it very strange. He's almost overtly a heel at points in his matches. Why are people shaking hands with Cody after matches in which he has slammed their injured leg off of a ring post on purpose? It's a weird power dynamic. I don't like it. Like, I don't think we should I don't know, idolize people because they're in a position of power, because they're established as this popular guy. If I'm in an athletic contest, if I'm playing football against you and I keep tackling you, so you secretly drive your studs into my knee so that you can get an advantage, I ain't shaking your hand after the match. And it's that kind of vibe. It's kind of like, I don't know, I kind of annoyed a lot of people on Twitter this week by suggesting that AEW are playing a little bit too much into like having people that are almost like above everyone else, the way they talk about Tony Khan and the way that they present Cody Rhodes. We shouldn't be like, I don't know, in our art and our like popular culture, I don't think we should be like deifying people where they can just like smash your knee off the ring post, but you're lucky that you ever got to be in the ring with them in the first place. So yeah, I didn't like that. And you might be sitting there being like, oh, but pal, stop being so political about a wrestling match. But everything's political, and I think we need to start treating everything as political. And the way that Cody Rhodes is presented in AEW, especially in 2020, I don't like it. I'm like turning on Cody, and that's weird, especially after where he was around about like Full Gear against Jericho. But he was this superb character at that point, and I really loved it. And I've kind of like turned on him. Don't know how you would respond to that short political monologue, Ryan.
No, it is something that I think about that, and it's like, yeah, Cody. There's several points, I guess. There's the one idea that like Cody, scouted out the idea that, hey, Marq Quen injured his leg last week. Obviously, my strategy, as any sort of wrestler would probably do, is go after that leg, right? And it's one thing to go after the leg versus another thing by slamming the leg into a ring post and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or
the strategy is not what I would take issue with. It's the kind of filthy tactics.
Yeah, I was about to say, conversely, there's a difference between just doing sort of submissions and strikes on the leg versus normally what a heel would do, which is bringing in outside advantages. Granted, it's the ring post, so it's a little bit of a gray area, I guess. But yeah, there's that aspect. But like you said about like shaking the hands and everything, there's also the idea that like, both in kayfabe and I guess in reality that Cody Rhodes is his boss. So it's like, oh yeah, thank you for the opportunity, sir. There is that aspect.
They're very stone cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, it's also like I've also heard the same sort of idea to go back to actually going back to Takeover in your house. There is like that same idea of like on Wednesday of NXT, Damian Priest being like, yeah, it doesn't matter that I lost the match against Finn Balor. I made a moment. And there is this idea of like being happy that you lost. Like, again, it's Marq Quen. He's more of a tag team specialist and whatnot. And there is this idea of like shaking the hands after just losing a match. There is the respect thing. There is this is my boss sort of thing.
I don't have an issue with the shaking the hands after losing, but it's like, it was the shaking the hands after the tactics of your opponent. That's like, yeah, self-respect and like where you see yourself in comparison to other people was kind of what kind of that triggered in me.
That's fair. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just what Marq Quen viewed as fair versus what Marq Quen views as dirty, I guess, would be the only thing I got on that take. Yeah, I know. I thought, to to go back to this match, I thought it was a good match. The match offense being 50-50 was quite a surprise towards me, especially after the Jungle Boy match.
Yeah.
Where another match where Cody Rhodes feels like, well, Cody Rhodes definitely felt more aggressive in that match, but I wouldn't necessarily say he felt like the heel per se, since he busted open everything. Now that I think about it, I don't know. I saw the idea on Reddit, and I sort of like the idea. It definitely feels like they're slow burning a heel turn on Cody.
I really hope they are.
Yeah, and I think it's the best thing to go for him at this point.
Yeah.
Um, especially if it's like, I don't know, maybe you can do it with MJF winning the title off of him. I don't know. But it's interesting. And then,
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that.
yeah,
Like, yeah, this could go for a while, and that could be the thing that like makes him snap.
yeah, or it's either, I don't know. Now that I think about it, it's either he has to get snapped from MJF and turn
Hmm.
heel, like aggressively heel on him, or conversely, he just goes like mad with power
Yeah.
and like gives himself the AEW World Title shot, even though he said he wouldn't.
I think I support the idea of AEW staying away from like people that are mad with power, like the WWE thing.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, but we got plenty of more TNT Championship matches to unfold. There's a slight rumor about who's going to be the upcoming week. I guess we shouldn't really say it. Keep it as a surprise, I guess.
Yeah.
But the upcoming week, again at Fighter Fest, it's going to be presumably Cody against Jake Hager. Weird.
Mm.
I really did not like the setup of that match, but whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a bit kind of odd, isn't it? Like it's yeah.
It's like, why? First off, Jake Hager didn't say a single word. Second
Hmm.
off, Cody, why are you like, oh yeah, you're attacking me because you want a match at Fighter Fest? No, why?
Yeah.
No, knowing Jake Hager, why wouldn't he want a match next week since there's no
Hmm.
one announced yet? Um, why are we not doing these sort of things instead of just a random match 3 weeks from now, Cody? It was just a weird setup. It was another one of those things where it felt like, like Jungle Boy sort of felt like the match was being rushed and that there was a
Yeah.
rumor that they ran out of time, which I think is funny. It was another thing like this where it's like it felt like they were running out of
Taped.
time, and I was like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, and it was taped as well. But like not to be too down on AEW, but um, to try and look more positively, they had Chris Jericho beat up Orange Cassidy this week with a bag full of oranges, which is maybe one of my favorite things I've seen in wrestling in quite some time.
It was perfect. It was just simply perfect. It was something that like I never would have thought of just like, oh yeah,
No.
but it's just like the perfect thing of like Jericho to be like, what is this sort of out of the box idea? Well, let's just get a bag of oranges and beat him up with it. And that bag of oranges hurt. Like
Oh yeah.
there's no way you gimmick all of those oranges.
No, they
Uh,
were. You could see that they were like busted up as well. Like the
yeah,
oranges were like, yeah.
they busted open
Oh,
just like Orange Cassidy.
yeah. Although I was a little bit disappointed that like towards the end of the segment we did just go off the air with Jericho like in a fits of fury hitting oranges that were like all over the ground with a baseball bat, maniacally, looking completely unhinged. But,
It would that would have been great too.
yeah.
Oh man, but
Well, I
yeah.
really liked that Ortiz still had one of them later on in the evening, and he threw it at somebody in the ring.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, the orange on orange segment was
Yes.
quite great. Quite great. I loved it so much. It was the sort of thing that Inner Circle also sort of needed.
Yeah.
It was slightly comedic because, beating someone with oranges is kind of just funny. But
Yes.
it was something that brutal assault is sort of what they needed every once in a while, just to remind you of who they are. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. Going back to, I guess, sort of the theme of a lot of these matches are, looking at Cody, Marq Quen having a decent amount of submissions, FTR bringing submissions back, and of course, what we talked about with Charlotte Flair just dominating submissions. We wanted to continue our look-see through these AEW individual stat breakdowns of submissions moves versus win-loss records, Craig.
Yes.
Last week talked about dives, we looked at strike downs, and we looked at strikes. We've looked at I forget the last stat, which was grapples. And now we're looking at submissions. We got the graph in front of us. Slightly disappointing in my eyes. What do you think?
Yeah. So again, this will be on the website. So if you're like me and you tend to listen to podcasts when you're on the go, yeah, just go up on the. I would just check out the website every now and again to
There'll be
see the
description.
images.
There link in the description of this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, it's essentially a flat line, maybe slightly positive in terms of submissions being helpful if you want to win a match. Um, so it seems like if you're not a submission specialist, you shouldn't go, oh, I need to boost my win-loss record. I don't do much submissions. Let's give that a try. It seems like to be successful with submissions, you need to be a bit of a specialist. You need to be, doing it often. But yeah, it's interesting. Jimmy Havoc is the man who is getting the most submission seconds per hour of wrestling. He's all the way out in front, with an average of 332 seconds per hour of wrestling. Interestingly, Colt Cabana is second. Colt Cabana with 220 seconds of submission per hour of wrestling, which is obviously not working out for him as he's on a -1 record, Havoc being a +2. And then it's like Pac and Sabian are next. So like the guys that are using the submissions are not kind of the most anyway, are not who you'd think in terms of like Cody and Jericho.
Yeah, it's sort of sad seeing that there is basically little to no correlation between using submissions. Not even your sort of length of submission holds. So not even like the number of submissions, but how long
Mhm.
you use submissions
Yeah.
versus win loss records. Like it's kind of sad that like it doesn't really have an effect on whether or not you win. Interesting that
I
Cabana's
think
up there. I like seeing, obviously, when I try to think of some, and I guess maybe that's part of it. When I think of AEW and I think of who is a submission specialist, no one really sticks out to my head. I mean, even seeing here, one could argue, obviously, Havoc is a submission specialist, but that's not what goes to my brain. Cabana, it definitely did not go to my brain. Pac would probably be up there. Cody would kind of be up there, but he's way in the back. Yeah, like no one in my brain was like, oh yeah, there's submission specialists, which maybe that's part of the thing is that no one's really good with their submissions.
Yeah, so like I've thought a lot about this after the conversation that was had midweek, about like what these numbers mean and the way that you use language to like say what's successful and what's not. And what I've kind of landed on is what you would say here is that Jimmy Havoc using submissions as part of his arsenal is working for him because he has a positive record and he has such a high number.
Mm-hmm.
Colt Cabana using submissions as a big part of his arsenal is not working for him. So perhaps he should be looking for another tactic entirely.
Which he has by joining Dark Order potentially.
Well, yes. But then if we were to look at somebody like Joey Janela, who's -2 record, 50 seconds of submission per hour of wrestling, maybe he does need to grind people down a bit more,
Hmm.
and upping his submissions may be a good tactic for him. We certainly can't say that it is based on these numbers, but um, you know, Cody's getting something right. Joey Janela is not getting something right, and Joey Janela's submission rate is low. So this might be this might be the thing that works for him. It's a bit like, oh, this is the thing that's come to mind, but it's very left field for a wrestling podcast. It's a bit like if you've ever done some work on yourself and you've done some kind of mental health work. It's not the same ingredients for every person. You need to find what works for you, and perhaps this is what we're looking at here for Jimmy Havoc. The having the submission as part of his article is working to an extent,
Mm-hmm.
but for Brody Lee, who's all the way down there with 0 submissions, but a +4, things are working for him without submissions. Whereas even like Jungle Boy is
Oof.
not. It seems odd to say, oh, maybe Jungle Boy should start doing some submissions, but he's on a -3. This just for accuracy points. I'm a bit behind with loading Dark results to this. I've got all the Dynamites and all the pay-per-views, but Dark is a bit of a slog sometimes. So maybe Jungle Boy, he an option for him is maybe submissions. Let's go and spend some time talking to, I don't know, Bret Hart about how to up my submissions. I don't know, something that maybe that's how we need to be framing these conversations.
Or yeah, like that's a very solid point, that like breaking it down of seeing what move sort of works for each individual person. I mean, Jungle Boy is the huge standout there. There's not only the idea that he's more of like a high flyer, there's also the idea that he's more of a tag team guy. So him just being like, because obviously this is all in singles matches. What you're looking at now, folks.
Sorry, I'm being really rude to interrupt you. I just flicked through the tabs for the other things. Sorry, I'm going to if you go on the website and go to the in-ring performance type stuff, one of the tabs there, you can access my Excel document with all this, and there are tabs for like male singles, female singles, etc., and that says strike rate, grapple rate, dives, etc. So Jungle Boy with his -3 is way back on the submissions, but then when you click on the dives tab, Jungle Boy with his -3 is the complete opposite. So Jungle Boy's strategy of not bothering with submissions but using dives all the time is not working for him.
Yeah.
And that might work for Rey Fenix. Rey Fenix might never bother with grapples. Never bother with something but do loads of dives, and it does work for him. But Jungle Boy could pop on to prowrestlingmusings.com, check out this document and go, oh, maybe this is why I'm not winning wrestling matches. So yeah, you're very welcome, Mr. Perry.
No, I mean, that's a great point. Like, if you're looking at the thing, you're looking at, I have a bunch of singles losses, and then you look at prowrestlingmusings.com.
I'm sure they all do.
Then sort of looking at that, being like, oh, for Jungle Boy, maybe submissions, I need to up my submissions game, because obviously Jungle Boy is someone I think of as a dive sort of guy. It's not working. Whereas, Havoc, it is working for him a little bit, 2 wins, or at least positive 2 wins. Cody and Moxley, I always got to point them out as well. They're always basically the same spot in every single graph. They're very consistent.
Yeah.
And
they're in the middle again.
They're always in like that middle. They're always in that middle.
As is Jeff on this one, who's like, actually, oh wow, that's really interesting. So your top 3 guys, Moxley, Cody, MJF, are all within like, where are the numbers? So Moxley 78 being the low man of them, those 3. Cody being the high man with 106. So they're all within 30 seconds of submission time, 28 seconds of submission time difference between those guys. And when the whole graph goes for we've got a plotting area of 350. So the margins there of getting the kind of the Goldilocks region of getting it right is where Moxley, Cody, and MJF seem to be suggesting it is.
Yeah, it's I love how Cody and Moxley are always in the same spot. Like their consistency is amazing, and they're not. Moxley, I guess, is another thing, but Cody is. I guess what really it's saying is that you got Phoenix is a diving specialist, right, with a bunch of wins, and very consistently high number of dives. Cody, compared to that, Cody is arguably not a specialist at anything. He's just a wrestler, right? Similarly, Moxley, maybe a little less so, but there's different aspects to Moxley as well that we'll eventually get to, maybe, about maybe his resiliency or whatever. But, Cody, he's just like a wrestler's wrestler. He just does everything, and it does it well. Obviously, he knows maybe it is Arn Anderson helping him, since Arn Anderson is the one that joined him at the start of 2020. Maybe Arn Anderson is checking out ProWrestlingMusings.com and pulling some data and being like, Cody.
That's what's on that laminated sheet that he's carrying around all the time.
What?
It's this spreadsheet.
How much would you pop if you saw that sheet and you just saw like all of these spreadsheets on there?
I mean, it's obviously not, but like this kind of data, this would be a convincing prop. This, like, the data looks impressive, if nothing else, and I mean it is legitimate, but it at least looks impressive.
Oh yeah, when we eventually start our own wrestling promotion, you're going to be the greatest Arn Anderson like you're not going to be the coach, you're not going to be just like a normal manager. You're going to be the statistician. You're going to be like, this is what you need to do. Go out there and like someone's going for a dive, and you're like, no, don't dive, don't dive.
I'm gonna be the manager on the outside. I'll start screaming at somebody halfway through a match. Too many.
Like that's like another thing that I feel like AEW needs to do is just confirm that Arn Anderson's doing the correct stuff. I guess maybe they're doing it implicitly. But I would love if they just had like a promo beforehand of Cody and Arn talking about what their the strategy is, and then going out and doing it.
I think the story they're going with is Arn isn't actually helping Cody.
Oh, maybe I'm not.
Because so you'll have noticed on the flow of offense graph this week for Cody versus Marq Quen, you always ask really good questions about when exactly did such and such happen. So this week I've tried to like signpost it. So again, if you go onto the website for the visuals or wherever, the flow of offense where you see like the peaks and troughs of when people are giving out the offense. So for example, we've got Marq Quen's knee gives way around the 5 minutes. So he goes to do a springboard move and his knee just gives way and he crumples to the ground. Interestingly, that's when Cody hits him with a few moves, then takes him to the outside and starts slamming his knee off the ring post, which is also signposted in there. But then there's a bit where Marq Quen gets this huge lift in offense, and he's kind of going wild. There's lots of dives in there. There's a couple grapples, some strike downs. While that's going on, Arn Anderson gets up on like the rampway thing and is like shouting and trying to, I don't know if he's just trying to talk to Cody or if he's trying to distract Marq Quen. But anyway, it doesn't work, and Marq Quen carries on with his offense and he hits another couple of big moves. And I think there's been other people have highlighting on podcasts that perhaps Arn Anderson isn't actually being all that effective. And I think often common theme that you will find in these discussions is people think that Arn Anderson will eventually turn on Cody, which, you know, that's a really good storyline because there's the MJF stuff as well.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of the whole snapping thing.
Interesting. That is an interesting thought, especially with the, you know, you didn't want to talk about it earlier, but interesting idea, especially with like the Four Horsemen ideas. Yeah. You know, of course, you got Arn and Tully, who are distinctly known for their Four Horsemen years. It's interesting. Maybe
like Cody kind of he kind of wants to be Sting, but I think he kind of also wants to be Ric Flair.
Cody wants to be everything. Cody just wants to be any of his favorite people from his childhood.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I like that because then you could do Arn. Arn turns on Cody during the MJF match and aligns himself with MJF instead. And that's what causes Cody to lose the TNT Championship.
Well, yeah, there you go, and that's a big snapping point, isn't it?
And then have FTR join them, and then you got the Four Horsemen, and there we go. Wardlow, I guess, is the fourth guy. MJF is your Ric Flair. FTR is your Arn and Tully, and then Wardlow is just the other guy that's always there. That's just always gets thrown in and out every once in a while.
Could be, yeah, could be.
There's some ideas. There's some ideas for you. Okay, well, yeah, then there we go. That is our show, Craig. Thank you everybody for listening to this week's episode of Wrestling with Statistics. Like we always say, you can go to ProWrestlingMusings.com to get more statistical breakdown analysis, not just on this, but a world of wrestling. I'm trying to think of the word, and what the word is, wrestling. You can also follow us on Twitter at HitTheBooksPod. You can follow me on Twitter there. You can follow Craig at PW Musings or at Craig PW Musings. To get more personal thoughts and feelings, not just the stats and breakdowns and whatnot. Like we said, you can go to the Hit the Books podcast. You're already at the end of this episode, but if you wanted to see some visuals next time while you're listening, you can go there and listen to the YouTube version of it, and you can sort of see it all at one time. What else, Craig? Anything else to plug?
I think that's everything.
I feel like that was everything. I just don't remember. You know how, like, every once in a while, sorry. You know how every once in a while in your house, like, okay, it's the thing that always I hate the most, but it's like, you know, whenever you're in your house that, like, all of a sudden, like, there's a sound behind you, and it's just, like, sort of, like, some sort of item, whether it be a book or whatever, it's just sort of, like, settling due to gravity or whatever. That always scares me. And maybe now that I think about it, maybe that's what people thought ghosts were.
Probably.
And maybe I'm saying that I'm scared of ghosts. This is the post show. This is the AEW Wrestling Statistic post show. Yeah, so I guess that was everything. We'll be back next week. We'll probably be back with maybe some more AEW Dynamite, but at the very least, New Japan, baby. New Japan. And of course, the greatest wrestling match ever. See you next week. Bye.